what do we obey? You know, in our culture, we may not like that word very much. Do we obey our thoughts, our thinking? Whether it's fearful or egotistical. Do we obey our hunger? But there's another way. Obeying our original mind. Obeying this peace, this boundless reality, our fundamental nature. We will have a story today from Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, 101 Zen Stories. And these stories were first compiled by Jishin Sensei and edited with the help of Paul Reps. Story number 4, Obedience. The Master Bankai's talks were attended not only by Zen students, but by persons of all ranks and sects, religious sects. He never quoted sutras. Thank you. Nor indulged in scholastic dissertations. Instead, Master Bankai's words were spoken directly from his heart to the hearts of his listeners. His large audiences angered a priest of the Nichiren sect because the adherents had left to hear about Zen. The self-centered Nichiren priest came to the temple, determined to debate with Bankai. "Hey, Zen teacher," he called out, "wait a minute. Whoever respects you will obey what you say. But a man like myself does not respect you. Can you make me obey you? Come up beside me. I will show you. I'll show you. Come up here," said Bankai. Proudly, the priest pushed through his way through the crowd to the teacher. Bankai smiled. "Come over to my left side, place of honor." The priest obeyed. "No," Bankai said, "we may talk better if you're on the right side. Step over here." The priest proudly stepped to the right. "You see," observed Bankai, "you are obeying me. And I think you are a very gentle person. Now, sit down and listen." So, Harvest Session 2025. We're joined by most of the Jukai students, the Bodhisattva Initiate class of the year. And some folks are not here in the room, but are here via technology, so we're grateful for that. And we're in the midst of this rather chilly time of year up here. I spent several weeks down in Florida, and I'm afraid I did become acclimated to that weather. So it's a bit nippy for me, but it was so beautiful to see. Jishin Sensei had posted some pictures of the snow here the other day, and that was delightful. And in our story today, we meet a couple of folks, and apparently there's many, many people in attendance in the audience, in the crowd. It sounds like all kinds of people, not just Zen monks, but also many, many nuns as well. I understand Master Benkai had a lot of ordained women under his in his study as well, and all kinds of people evidently attended. There were farmers and nobles often, and people who were involved, obviously, in Nichiren and other kinds of religious activity. So he attracted a wide number of people and kinds of people. I understand that he spoke in colloquial language, so common language, so that he could kind of put things very plainly and touch people directly. I know many people have heard of Bankai and his Bankai Yo Taku. He was a Zen master in the 17th century in Japan. He came from an area, today it's called Hyogo Prefecture, to the west of Kyoto Prefecture, and I think, Okinawa is to the southeast. So I think it touches both coasts of the island, rather rural, and that's where he was from, born in 1622. And he lived until September 30th, 1693. He was a really strong Zen teacher, and all throughout his life seemed to be someone who was resistant to just going along with the crowd. You know, he wanted to know for sure if this was the right way for him to go. So he was a questioner, and he was apparently a somewhat rebellious person, and was not easily controlled. So it's interesting that this story is called Obedience. And I think that Bankai probably knew a lot about non-obedience and ultimately settled on some kind of obedience. When he was a child, his father was a samurai who became a medicine man, became a doctor, village doctor, essentially. And he lost his father, I know, and I think maybe his mother as well at a very early age. I don't know that he lost his mother, but he was basically orphaned as if she were alive. She had a lot to deal with. So he was essentially homeless by the time he was like 11 years old. And I think he lived with relatives, but he was so rebellious that they said, no. He kicked him out, basically. So a very young person had to deal with being on his own. And he had been a student, I understand, at some point, learning about, I think probably very typical at that age, learning about the Confucius scriptures, if you will, or the lines and wisdom of Confucius. And one of the things that one of the lines that stuck with him was that essentially, it wasn't put in terms of enlightenment, but essentially that enlightenment was dependent upon bright virtue, the achievement of bright virtue. And this really kind of stuck in Bankai's craw, and he went around to some various teachers and see if he could find out what this bright virtue was. What is bright virtue? After all, this is the key, so what is it? And incidentally, his name was Muchi, which is really cute. So So Bankai, he set up like a hut, basically, at an early age, and I think he had written kanji on there that said, practice hut. So he was very serious, very, very driven, and eventually sought out other teachers farther away, and did find a teacher that he studied, practiced Zazen with. He was a very driven person, very driven to find these answers and to find this what is bright virtue at an early age. He was driven to practice vehemently, much like many of the masters, and like Hakuin certainly later, that he would go without food and go without sleep and really abstain from fundamental things, such that he was in a place where he became very unhealthy. So he really was driven, and interestingly, eventually he became known for what is interpreted or translated as unborn Zen. So kind of interesting that he came from this place of being really challenged, really driven, and at a crisis to the point that he would risk his life and his health to investigate, and eventually became known for what's translated or called unborn Zen. The other character in that isn't named, but I suspect might have been a younger priest, a younger fella. He was Nichiren. That was his religious background. He was not named Nichiren. Nichiren was 13th century and had a school of Buddhism named after him. It's very nice. So Nichiren at that time, what it's known for is the really emphasis on enlightenment or attaining Buddhahood, even in this lifetime, through the study of the Lotus Sutra, through the connection of the Lotus Sutra, and the recitation of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. So Nichiren, so this fella that was in the story, he's a Buddhist priest under Nichiren's school, and he probably, we hear that he was self-centered. Certainly his actions appeared to be self-centered. He really wanted to confront Bankai, who was taking his students away, essentially, and or his congregation. And who knows? I mean, maybe he had a long-term resentment. Maybe he, felt that he was very staunchly religious, according to the Nichiren devotion. And Nichiren, the originator of the school, he said about other sects of Buddhism, he had a saying about that. And he said that they were called the 4 denunciations. And the line is Nembutsu Mugen, Zen Tenma, Shingon Bokuku, Ritsu Kokuzoku. Translated as Nembutsu, which is the recitation of Amida Butsu, is hell. Zen, a vile demon. Shingon, national ruin. It's going to ruin the whole nation. And Ritsu, treason. So Ritsu, it turns out, is a school that was focused on the precepts. So that was, so if you're one of the Jukai students, you're really kind of in double trouble here, according to Nichiren. Both the vile demon, following a vile demon, and treason. So, this is pretty scary. So it was interesting to learn that there was a whole school about the precepts. So the lay followers, not just precepts for bhikshus and bhikshunis, but also for lay people. So, according to Nichiren, you should not think too highly, apparently, of these other methods. And I would imagine that Zen Buddhism might have been quite a threat, as, it was not reliant upon the scriptures, right? And that Nichiren started as really focused on the Lotus Sutra, and the scriptures. So this fellow was not at all pleased about what Bankei was doing. And I understand Bankei really brought in large amounts, many, many people. And the other characters, of course, are all those people, as we mentioned, and as I mentioned. And then this business of some of these words are very strong to the point that I feel like they're characters. Obedience and obey. And, certainly in American culture, we're not really crazy about the words obey and obedience. It used to be a part of the marriage vows, and used to be a part of the marriage vows for typically for heterosexual marriages with a woman, right? So they must obey the husband, and there's certainly many Old Testament biblical quotes that kind of say the same thing. So we're not crazy about that. We expect, dogs to obey our commands, and those are typically, it brings about the idea of a relationship between two, kind of a polarity, and one is dominant, right, and the other is subjugated to control. Now, maybe it's beneficial, but we don't have a great relationship with the word obedience. And it's interesting because obey did come from kind of regarding more or taking a second look in a way similar to respect. It had to do with following. So we do have obey and obedience also in terms of religion, right? That when you have precepts, when you have rules, that one obeys. And there is certainly a sense of obeying God and obeying this great force. Another word that really sticks out in the story is respect. And this is another kind of stickler word, respect. People may demand respect. Again, we get into the power thing, and that someone as an individual may need to stand up for their rights and expect respect. It's potent, right? It's potent. And the Nichiren priest said, well, I don't respect you. So there had to be some kind of terms in their relationship in order for this obedience to start off. So I'm jumping ahead. These words, some of these words in the story seem to be almost characters in and of themselves. And in terms of obey, it's really interesting to look at what do we obey? You know, in our culture, we may not like that word very much and feel, well, I don't, you know, I have a choice. I am an independent individual. I have a choice whether I obey or not. And I may choose to obey to be a good citizen, to be in harmony with society. And that is a choice, though, that I make, and I realize there are consequences if I don't obey laws. But what else do we perhaps obey other than authority, things that we deem in authority? Do we obey our thoughts, our thinking? Whether it's fearful or egotistical. Do we obey our hunger or our desire to stuff food in our mouths, kind of numb out? There are ways, certainly, that we obey other things that are not necessarily something we put in a place of authority or over ourselves, but that end up having a lot of control over us. And it's also possible, like in the case of obeying our hunger, that we do things that are very natural in obeying. One might simply obey having a scratch that needs to be itched, or an itch that needs to be scratched, rather. Or, obeying putting on warmer clothes when you get cold. Something very simple that we constantly do. Thinking that, it is maybe time to take care of something that would affect someone else. It might be a thinking, it might not be a thinking, it might be an intuition, it might be an instinct. And simply obeying that. So in this story, we see Bunkai kind of playing with this area. And as far as we hear, self-centered or egotistical priest was concerned, he would be obeying a command. He would be showing respect, and it would be something on the level of theory when it came to the Dharma. But Bunkai kind of showed him, very simple. We're just working together. Probably most of you have had the experience when you're assigned to washing dishes in the Tenzo, that you can be in there, especially in a kase or in session, and there'll be several people just moving about as they need to move about, working together as one body without speaking, without asking many questions. And there's this sense that we're just getting things done, that we're working as one, and there's no need for thinking, no need for explaining who we are or why we are doing what we're doing necessarily. This is the kind of working together obedience that Bunkai was showing. Not relying on words or letters, simply relying on our human instincts and working together. It was perfectly natural when Bunkai said, well, come. He invited him. Come up here. Come be a part of this. I'll work with you. He didn't push. He didn't resist. He said, come on, okay. Let's check this out. Come over here to my left. I don't know that, but I suspect that might be an area, of prominence, that there's some respect. He's on the left, showing him. And he said, sorry, I don't hear very well in this ear. Come to think of it, come over here to the right, and we'll be able to. And naturally, the priest obeyed. It didn't occur to him he was obeying, but of course, this is a very cute story in a way. It's one way to see it is how clever, Bankai was. And I feel like I grew up with these stories. They're really charming. And that's why I chose to work with him, is a sense of innocence and a sense of kind of naturalness about these stories. I remembered this book as a child, and it was something that was around and something fascinating, and nobody happened to ever talk about it, but I knew there was something in there that really was magnetic. Very direct, very simple. So you can look at it one way as if, this is really charming, it's pretty tricky. Up in front of an audience, a huge audience, and this guy wants to show off, and assert some power and say, hey, you don't have anything over me. Who do you think you are, sitting up in front of all these people and telling them something? They're obeying you. Is that why they were there? They weren't there, apparently, because they had to show him deference and respect because he had ordained everyone. They weren't there because he had given everyone jukai. They were all kinds of people. It was more the way that he connected with people, that he spoke directly. There was something direct to their minds. So Bankai is known as, for this term, unborn Zen. Fushu Zen, or Fushu Fumetsu, unborn and undying. And I do want to share, I talked about how kind of rebellious Bankai was. And there's a wonderful little story about, he was, what would it be? He was 22 to 93, about 70 years old. Probably had a very hard life, and I imagine that was quite old for the 17th century. He was not in good health and started to decline, and spent time with his students during that time. And then someone asked if he would compose a death verse. As he was a master, he should compose a death verse. It's very traditional. And he said, I've lived for 72 years. I've been teaching people for 45 of those years. What I've been telling you and others every day during that time is all my death verse. I'm not going to make another one now before I die just because everyone else does. After speaking those words, apparently he passed away. So this was a nail that stuck out. He Bankai, was known for his Fusho Fumetsu, unborn and undying. We've, I think probably a lot of people have read something of quotes from Hakuin, who came later, was born later, and Hakuin, was kind of disparaging about this kind of school of unborn Zen, and And, which sounds kind of ironic once you think about what we recited today, which is the Song of Zazen. Sentient beings are fundamentally Buddha. So I imagine what really was going on with that is that it's not that Hakuin believed, no birth, no death in this life, but that that the followers of Bankei were, maybe doing as we say now, a spiritual shortcut or bypassing, right? So. So I don't take that after studying this, I don't take it too literally about any quotes about Hakuin kind of disparaging the idea of unborn. And Bankai did not write any of his teachings, and he actually put it out there that he did not want his students writing down his teachings. So fortunately, somebody did, because we get to talk about it a little bit today. So, but we don't have volumes. But he really was to the point, and he really was making things very direct. And with this, and I'd like to share a couple of things that were written down from Master Bankai. You have to realize that your thoughts are ephemeral and unreal. And without either clutching at them or rejecting them, just let them come and go of themselves. They're like images reflected in a mirror. A mirror is clear and bright and reflects whatever is placed before it. But the image doesn't remain in the mirror. The Buddha mind is 10,000 times brighter than any mirror, and it is marvelously illuminative besides. All thoughts vanish tracelessly into its light. Marvelously illuminative Buddha mind. Bankai, in this unborn Zen, was expressing that each of us are born with Buddha mind. We are born with the all-pervasive, endlessly wide, open, boundless, and ever intimate mind that can be accessed at any time. I know that I feel it, that this Buddha mind is really being recognized. Its preciousness is really being recognized in this session. And what a gift, right? Nothing that can be created, nothing that can be fashioned or even carved away. We all kind of know that these thoughts are not real, and that these thoughts we have that we end up clinging to or pushing away seem real. What a beautiful practice we have in Sesshin and in our daily life all the time to recognize that it's simply a matter of letting go. Simply a matter of not layering on, of not hanging on to. When I was typing out the story to have it posted, and thank you, Chigan Roshi, for doing that. The word self-centered was used, and I thought, that's really unnecessary to say that the Nichiren priest was self-centered, because it shows, obviously, that he was. And when I realized that it's really kind of helpful to point out, because that's the big cloud in front of the sun. This is the thing that we get attached to, this self-centeredness. And we cannot help it as human beings. There's no way around it. I am the center of the universe in our thinking. This has been, Bankei talked about it, as delusion, and it's being kind of constantly reinforced by our language and our society and growing up as a child, but it's not something we're born with. I don't know that, but it's certainly something to be very aware of. And not that it is bad in and of itself, but that we have the capacity in emptying out, in letting go, in just taking in as it is right now, just letting go of that self, that through that awareness of self is this path to this mirror, right? Is the way to see, to be aware of this reflection, this mirror, this openness, this experience, this, it's time to scratch the itch or do nothing. And that this is available at any moment. There is if you were to criticize, and perhaps this is the kind of the criticism that Hakuin might have had with unborn Zen, is, that, it's just sitting there, it's just not taking any responsibility, any accountability. But it's not a thought. It is placing oneself in this life, not having to do a thing, in this moment, and this practice over and over and over again, that it is possible to continuously practice, and we are constantly given the opportunity in our delusion, in our thinking. Bankei said, it's because you don't recognize the preciousness of the Buddha mind that is constant, that is never dies and has always been there, that you indulge in self-centeredness, grand delusions that do harm. Yet these delusions are so precious to all of you that you actually want to become deluded even at the risk of your own life. Well, he's kind of chastising there. And that certainly our ego and our delusions are very, very important to us, and we do cling on to them. They're also precious because this is the vehicle we have to awaken in our human state. Unable to understand the base impulse you produce from your selfish desires, you become deluded. With all delusions, it's the same. Everyone insists that the way he or she likes to behave is their innate character, so they can't do anything about it. Yet innately, we are Buddhas. Easy to think about, hard to practice. Yet I think in the story that Bunkai is showing us, it's constantly available. Simple things of relating to one person at a time. Simple interactions. Direct to the mind. This is precious. This recognition is precious. So he says, when you hear this, I want all of you from today on to abide in the unborn Buddha mind just as it is. The unborn Buddha mind, which is that which you have from your parents innately, then you won't create delusions about anything. And since no delusions will remain, you'll be living Buddhas from today moving on. You've got to realize this conclusively. Good to hear, right? And we certainly get so much opportunity to practice. What a blessing it is to be able to settle down, quiet down, not react, be kept from and have to obey the rules of not talking and not reacting. With this, we can see into our natures. But it's not necessary to only do that in sesshin. Right in the midst of our lives, in the midst of working it out with somebody, whether on the left or the right, we have that ability to directly connect, to recognize through that, and just to feel at peace through that. That we are not this small self, and that there is freedom in this life. We're addicted to this division, right? That what we need to obey are rules and authority and people, or what we need to rebel against are rules or authority or people. But there's another way. Obeying our original mind, obeying this peace, this boundless reality, our fundamental nature. Well, since I lost Rinzai, I'm not going to keep you much longer. Thank you for allowing me to come and go. although I wasn't born and didn't die. It's lovely to see everyone here, and that there's some people who have come today and are coming tomorrow even, or tonight later, and welcoming all of them. We're really having a sense of growing into this wonderful peak of the Jukai ceremony this weekend. It's been a privilege to work with some of the Jukai students and to be involved in the classes. It's been really nice to have members of the Sangha join in those classes, as they were welcome to do by Chigan Roshi. And not classes as much as meetings. We meet. So we come together and work together spontaneously and in our true being, heart to heart. So I look forward to that ceremony. I look forward to the zazen and the sharing we have until then. And thank you very much for your time and listening today.